I still remember the first Christmas after my grandmother passed away. The tradition stayed the same, but the warmth she used to hold together seemed to disappear with her. Conversations became competitions. Success was measured out loud. Silence was mistaken for failure. That year, I arrived with a homemade pie and a small gift for each of my cousins. No one asked much about my work. They never really had. I managed investments through a private holding company, but almost everything I did sat behind confidentiality agreements. I had learned long ago that explaining my career usually invited skepticism instead of understanding, so I stopped trying. Dinner moved along comfortably enough until someone asked Uncle Preston how business was going. He smiled in the confident way everyone expected. He spoke about acquisitions, executive dinners, and exclusive circles. Every sentence seemed designed to remind the table that he belonged among important people. Eventually, his attention landed on me. So, he asked, "Are you still experimenting with those little projects?" Before I answered, he laughed. "You're a worthless parasite playing a game. Leave business to the elite." A few uncomfortable smiles appeared around the table. Others looked down at their plates. My mother shifted uneasily but stayed silent. Years earlier, I would have defended myself. I would have listed achievements and explained complicated deals, hoping facts could earn respect. Experience had taught me otherwise. People rarely abandon opinions they enjoy holding. I simply thanked my aunt for the dessert and continued eating. The conversation stumbled forward. Someone changed the subject to football. Another cousin discussed vacation plans. The tension never completely disappeared. I noticed Uncle Preston occasionally looking toward me, almost disappointed that I hadn't reacted. Sometimes people expect anger because it justifies what they already believe. My phone vibrated beside my plate. Normally, I ignored business calls during family gatherings, but the screen showed our CFO. I quietly excused myself and answered. His voice carried unusual urgency. "Sir, our anonymous investment vehicle is preparing to withdraw the remaining $450 million from the acquisition, unless we receive your authorization within the hour. The board needs your decision." I walked into the hallway. "Has legal completed the review?" "Yes. Any unresolved compliance concerns? Then proceed exactly as planned, understood. I'll notify everyone immediately." The call lasted less than 2 minutes. When I returned, conversation had almost stopped. Apparently, my voice had carried farther through the hallway than I realized. Uncle Preston looked confused. "$450 million?" he asked carefully. I sat back down. "It was just work." He frowned. "What kind of work?" "The kind that usually stays private." Before I could say anything else, my phone rang again. This time the CFO had included 2 board members on speaker. They confirmed execution of the authorization and thanked me for making time during the holiday. One of them added, "Your decision probably saved several months of negotiations." I wished everyone a Merry Christmas and ended the call. Nobody spoke for several seconds. There wasn't dramatic music. Nobody dropped a glass. No one suddenly transformed into a different person. Reality is usually quieter than that. My uncle slowly leaned back in his chair. For the first time that evening, he seemed unsure of himself. He asked one final question. "So, you've been involved in all this?" "For a while. You never mentioned it." I smiled politely. "You never seemed interested." The words weren't meant to wound him. They were simply true. Dinner eventually resumed. People talked more carefully than before, not because they suddenly admired me, but because certainty had left the room. The labels they had attached to me no longer fit. Later that evening, my mother found me outside while I was loading empty containers into my car. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have spoken earlier." I nodded. "I know." Neither of us pretended that one conversation repaired years of silence. Some things improve slowly. Others never fully do. As I drove home, I thought less about the investment than about the choice I had made at the table. Keeping my composure hadn't changed who I was, it had simply prevented someone else's opinion from deciding my value. Respect that arrives only after a balance sheet is revealed has always been fragile. Self-respect, earned quietly over time, stays long after Christmas dinner is over.